This is Right to Life Radio, a production
right there.
of Right to Life of Central California. And now, here's your host, John Girardi.
Every first Saturday of the month, we have her on. We talk about the good, the bad, and the inspiring, and the difficult sometimes. We have Linda Teliha who's with us at Right to Life of Central California. And we're here for our Stories on the Sidewalk segment. This is where Linda tells us about her experiences working as a sidewalk advocate outside of Planned Parenthood on Fulton Street, interacting with women and couples who are going in and out, and some of the high highs and low lows of that work, which can be very difficult. And I want to I'll give you the floor today, Linda, because I know you, in the last sort of month here, it's been kind of a very action-packed month for you. It seems as though even though you went to vacation in Spain, in Switzerland, wherever for a while, but since the last time we did a show with you, you've seen a whole bunch of women choose life, and then several kind of more difficult situations. So I'll leave it to you for where you want to start with all that.
Okay, so we could probably start with the text conversation that we had, and you were like, "Oh, I hope you're having a good day," and I was like, "No, it's terrible."
Yeah, well, that was the one I wanted to ask about. So what was going on, and what are because it seems like you seem to. I'm noticing that when you talk about stuff that's happening on the sidewalk, you see these like connective themes or like stuff that's kind of repeatedly coming up.
Yeah.
And the thing that you've been seeing is sort of the men in these situations not being able to get through to them. So anyway, I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah. So most recently, and this was kind of hard because I was out of town for like 3 weeks, and we'll talk about the good after we talk about the bad, so people can, so they can.
Let's end with some hope. Yeah.
Well, also just get a little feel for the emotion that happens out there, not just for me, but for the other volunteers, and obviously for the people that are going through the crisis. Yeah. So this is something that keeps happening over and over again. There'll be a couple walking in, and I'll call out and say, "Would you like a flower?" And now that I think about it, a lot of times the woman will kind of look up, like almost like she wants to, and then
looking for a life raft.
Maybe. Yeah. And then sometimes, about half the time, the guy will put his hand on the girl's back, not shoving her in, but just, it looks like if you were in any other place, it would look like he was reassuring her.
Yeah.
And that, which seems like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Yeah. And for those who don't know, one of the things Linda does is to sort of initiate a conversation. She'll have a little bunch of flowers, and we'll say, "Here, would you like a flower? Would you like to talk?" And that's kind of a good way to kind of break the ice with people.
Yeah.
We found. So
it gets them to come over, and then sometimes they'll say, "What's a flower for?" And I'll say, "Well, just to get you to come over here,
just to get you to talk to me."
Yeah. So anyway, so this is what's been happening. This couple is walking in, and then a few minutes later, out comes the guy.
Just the guy. So the woman's inside, either in the waiting room or having her appointment, and the guy comes out.
The guy comes out. He's sort of pacing around. Maybe he's walking straight to his car. Whatever. The guy comes out. So to me, that's a pretty good clue that the girl's in there getting an abortion. And the funny thing is, not funny at all, but I might just flat say, "Is she getting an abortion?" And you can see the look on their face. It just all of a sudden, like, "How'd you know?" Or like, or okay, I can talk about it, or something like that.
Sure.
And most of the time, they'll actually come over and start talking about it. And when you talk to them, they'll say, "It's not really what I want to do, but I want to support her. And also, it's not the right time. So whatever she wants to do."
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know where we came up with this with no leader.
Right. Well, and that's, I feel like men, and one of the things we want to do with this episode of the show. So for those of you listening, we at Right to Life have an Instagram account and a Facebook page. So it's Instagram.com/RightToLifeCA. It's the word 2, T-O, not the number 2. And then Facebook.com/RightToLifeCA. Or you can just search for Right to Life of Central California on Facebook or Instagram. We've got a post up for this Saturday.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're asking is if you are encountering a young man whose partner is choosing abortion, what would you say to him? So
What do we
if you want to,
say?
what would you say? So we encourage you all, if you're listening, if you want to kind of interact with us and interact with the show, visit us on Facebook and Instagram and go to that post for today, Saturday, August the 5th. What would you say to a young man whose partner is considering abortion? So it's kind of a, I feel like we've talked about this topic quite a bit.
Yeah.
And this.
But it would be great if we could just get some dialogue going. I must be out of ideas because I've not had success in this situation each time, and I don't know why this particular scenario bothers me more than any other scenario.
Yeah.
I can talk to a woman who is like, I don't know what else to do, and she ultimately goes in, because for anyone who wants to know, it does happen where I talk to someone and we go around everything, and she turns and goes in, and it, for some reason, it does not bother me as much as when I'm talking to an 18-year-old guy who's like, yeah, I love this person. This is the love of my life, and I know that's my child. In fact, that's what happened. The most recent one, the guy was an athlete, which resonates with me.
Right, that helps you. It gives you some connection point.
Yeah, he was a track athlete, actually.
Oh, geez.
And so...
So you told him, run on in there.
Yeah, I don't want to give... I guess I could give as much information. He went to a local high school, which just happened to be the same high school I went to. And so I just started talking, and I was like, do you know... And the guy was literally puking outside of Planned Parenthood. I said, this is killing you, isn't it? And he goes, a little bit. And I said, and nothing kills you a little bit. Yeah. That's like being a little bit pregnant. This is killing you. Yeah. If you think it's bad now...
Well, and if you think it's bad for you, imagine how bad it is for her, you know?
Yeah. And it's going to, it's just going to get worse. And we talked about all the perspective, on and on and on. Really great looking kid. His partner was beautiful. And I mean, not that matters, but
even if they're butt ugly, their children has infinite value. Yeah. Exactly.
Somehow in this world that the word beautiful makes a difference.
Yeah.
But so we're talking, and I just said, just get in there. Your child. He goes, I know, I've done all kinds of research. I know it's actually not a clump of cells.
Yeah.
It's just not. Well, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think it's sort of two things that we're dealing with. One is, as you experience all the time with your work, it's people who haven't taken the time to slow down, look at what assets they have around them, what help could be available to them, and they this is my only option, this is my only option, this is my only option. And to have someone sit down with them and say, okay, maybe we can help you with X, Y, or Z. That you're dealing with that, but also with the guys, you're dealing with years of being told, well, it's her choice. It's her choice. I'm just trying to be there for her. Whatever she decides, whatever she decides, whatever she decides, whatever she decides. And there's such a non-development in them of any. And I'm not saying like be the man of the household and demand that your wife make a sandwich, but like the idea of take some have some sense of an authentic role as a man,
right,
to protect those that you love, and that there's that what she wants to hear is someone taking the lead to say, I love you so much that I'm gonna take care of this baby. I don't want this baby to go. I love you and I want to take care of this baby, and we'll make it work, and I'll bust my rear end to make sure that it works.
I think that the problem is that, even if we go back to the Bible verse, women submit to your husbands. It's been so like skewed, even in the supreme Christian community. And I think what we're forgetting and we don't know is that this has to be a team effort.
Yeah. Well,
community has to be a team effort.
Sure. Well, yeah, and even that verse from Ephesians, sometimes people say, wives, be obedient to your husbands, and then that makes people sort of shut down, like, oh, that's lame. The very next verse is, husbands, love your wives the way that Christ loved the church, which means literally be willing to die for this person. And that's the kind of, I think, leadership and willingness to sacrifice that either these guys need to be assured that they have the strength to do, or
well, that
or,
it means love.
And that's genuinely what love is. Yeah.
You know, even and I think especially in this this generation of what do you call this, childbearing age, I think that people do need to be they need to be assured that what love looks like. Love does most of the time, a lot of the time, mean taking a hard stand. And then if you want to slide into the secular part of that whole thing, if you play as a team, you have to have different people playing different positions. You can't, I mean, I love soccer. Sure. So you need a goalie and you need a forward, you need a midfield, you need defense.
And they're different kinds of people with different kinds of talents and different kinds of abilities.
And to win, everybody can't be a forward.
Right.
So we've pushed this whole agenda of we're all equal. Well, equal is subjective too. And I don't think we talk about that enough. Equality
not being the same as sameness. You know, equality is something different. Yeah, we're all, you know, we're all important people here.
Yes.
But we're not all the same. And I think that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Dial back to this happened 2 times in a row. Like day 1 and day 2 of my days back. And I'm like, back in the saddle.
Yeah.
And really, usually the guys are just super nice. They want to. And I got to them too late. They needed to be having this conversation the day before or the week before.
Yeah.
And all I can think of is we need to be talking to our youth. We need to be talking to each other.
Sure.
So that we know that we do support each other. And then dial it all the way back to our organization. People need to know that we are actually here to support people. And many times, if I can get someone to come in, I'm calling somebody up. And I'm saying, hey, do you want to talk to this person? Yeah. And then the people realize that even they don't know these people, that people do care. And we're missing it somewhere.
Well, even you've said this before, how the need to just slow down.
Yes.
And take a breath and assess what you have. And to hear from someone that, no, there are people who can help you with that. Like, you think you can't make rent? Like, there are ways we can find. There's ways we can
about
find
that on the next segment.
Yeah, we can find someone to get you $1,500 for rent, or $500 for your rent. Like, and I think for these young men just as much for the young women.
Yes,
they're sort of not wanting to, and maybe people have mixed motivations. Like, maybe there is some selfishness of like, okay, well, if she just goes through with this abortion, then this is a massive life change that's not going to happen, and okay, maybe that's just for the best. But to sort of, and I'm facing so many difficulties anyway that why fight this? But to let them know, no, that this is something doable. This is something achievable. We can help you with this. You can work on this. I think that's just something these guys need to hear it as much as anyone else. But as you said, it's like you wish you could.
I've even on the sidewalk had
a week earlier.
We have a younger, obviously everybody's younger to me, security guard out, and I've just looked at the person and looked at the security guard, and I'll say, hey, you want to just say something? And he'll go over and talk. Sometimes they'll talk a little more, but the outcome's the same. So in case someone comes up with, well, we need to have some guys out there talking, it has to come before this, and there have to be key words, or I'm missing something. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's a difficult thing on the sidewalk at the last minute to be undoing, however many years of upbringing these people have, and when you look at, we see, a huge percentage of children are born out of wedlock in this country and in our region, and to see how many kids are growing up without a sound example of what paternal love and paternal sacrifice,
love in general,
or love in general, but to not have a great example of what that looks like, I think is, I think that's such a challenging thing, and I'd say your batting average for this is still pretty darn good, all things considered. But that's just the challenging thing. We don't want to. When we return, we'll talk a little bit more about this. We'll talk about some of the successes we've had on the sidewalk. This is John Girardi with Right to Life Radio, a production, as always, of Right to Life of Central California, RTLCC. We'll be right back. We're back with Right to Life Radio, and we're joined today by Linda Teliha from Right to Life Central California. We're talking about our stories from the sidewalk. And our last segment was kind of tough. I mean, we're talking about, some people who decided not to choose life. And we don't want, I think there's a temptation with these with different pro-life groups to sort of paint kind of a rosy picture and say, oh, we had, 5 saves on the sidewalk. 5 people said yes. And, they're not really following up with the person to see what happens. They're I think it's important for this show to present the reality of abortion, not to be gross about it or anything, but it's a very difficult, dramatic thing. And when these people make these choices and you've got, you told the story of this couple where the guy was, thrown up outside the Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the reality of abortion. It's something that can really adversely affect people's lives. It's part of why we oppose it. So I want to give some space to end on a more hopeful note, because you had, I think, a lot of successes over this past month and so many people who chose life. And maybe you can share about some of those stories.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
So there had been a long period of time where I really didn't feel like I was being that effective. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, what should I do?
Yeah.
So I started praying every morning about asking God to give me the words that he wanted me to speak.
Yeah.
To help these people choose life. I don't know why that came out so
yeah, well, yeah.
I almost need to start over.
Yeah, that's all right. He doesn't need to help you choose the words on the radio show. He needs to help you choose the words on the sidewalk.
I couldn't think that up.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think that was because when I'm praying, I'm walking the dog, so it takes a little while for me to
there you go.
construct it. But anyway, so I started praying and leaving my phone at home even. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I had 5 people in a row. Like almost every time I talked to someone and said, are you thinking of having an abortion? They were saying yes. And then they were saying, yes, I'll come in and I'll talk to you.
Wow. Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I was like, I'm magic. Of course, it was me. I'm magic. No, I really don't ever think that. I always think, thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity to like feel my calling in a positive way.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny how it seems like it goes in these waves.
Okay, I feel magic a little bit.
Right. Well, it's funny how it goes in these waves, how it's like some periods no one wants to talk to you for a month. And then some periods it's like you got 5 people in like 2 weeks. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you'd be texting me, we have a staff meeting, and I'd be like, too bad.
Yeah. So what, tell me about me about some of these folks.
Okay. So one of the ones that has been the most, they're all gratifying, and gratifying is still the wrong word. I don't want anyone to leave thinking that I'm thinking
the point of this is not for us to feel fulfilled as a staff.
Yeah.
The point is to serve these people. But I think I know is the young lady who she's sort of kept in touch with us over the course of this time.
Yeah.
And
so
it's been really cool to see her.
So the first one that I talked to, she actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, it was she with her partner.
Yeah.
And she went in, he came out, and he kind of gave us the what's for. Or he did. He actually came up and said, what are you guys talking about? And he seemed a little negative. And then he scooted away, and she comes out, and she goes, okay, tell me what this is about. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, would you like to come inside and talk about it? And she said, yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, do you want him to come? And she was like, I guess so. So it goes like that. Yeah. Like once there's a little bit of hope, they're like, I am going to take care of my baby.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know that until an hour or two later.
Sure.
But anyway, so she came in and we started talking, and she started telling me about her story, her situation. And then, and actually he came in, I guess, right at that same time. Well, we're sitting there talking, and I looked at him, and he just looked really nervous. And by the way, he has a college degree. I mean, he went to a good school. He's, he has a potential for a good career.
Yeah.
And he was like, I only work part-time. I mean, he just got out of school.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can do this. And she was like, yeah, I don't have a job right now. So I looked at him and I said, would you like to talk to somebody who might be able to help you go in the direction of a better career or just a guy?
A job. Yeah.
He said yes. And I was like, oh. So
Yeah.
I start thinking,
Calling through your Rolodex, yeah.
who do I call and who's going to answer the phone?
Yeah.
So I actually called one of our former board members, and who happens to have a very, very good job. And I said, hey, can you talk to this guy? I mean, this is a cold call, too.
Yeah.
Who knows what he's doing? He's like, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So he just gets on the phone and they just start having a conversation. And our former board member starts just saying, like, I know this is super hard. You're young, you want to be successful, but you can do this.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. They get off the phone and I just say, have you ever heard of this company? And he was like, yeah. I go, well, he's a partner there. He goes, what? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's how we work here.
Yeah.
We want to connect you to people so that you can feel like you can do this.
Yeah.
And she's sort of sitting back and she kind of has an interesting story. Now, I'm just sort of remembering this because it was before I left. She said, I don't really know if I believe in God. And I was like, really?
Okay.
Well, tell me more about this. And she says, well, actually, I actually told God that if he wanted me to keep this baby, then he needed to show me some signs. And I was like, oh, okay.
And you're like, here I am.
I'm like, what kind of signs were you looking for?
Is there someone wearing a Right to Life in Central California shirt? Or what are you doing?
And she goes, I didn't even get in there on that one. So some other ones. She said, well, I said, if it's a girl, I'll keep it. And I said, and? She goes, well, it's a girl. And she goes, but that wasn't enough for me. She said, show me a pink elephant. And she goes, I opened my Facebook and there's a pink elephant.
Oh, geez.
I was like,
that's bizarre.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he probably doesn't exist. And so I could tell she was still on the fence.
Yeah.
And so she started talking about not having a job. She applied for these jobs and blah, 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 blah. And so anyway, I think it was a day later, she emails me and she goes, I got the job.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Mrs. I don't believe in God. How do you feel now? I really said that. And she just writes back, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
what do you need?
And it's been really cool we've gotten to interact with that couple and we've been able to help them out in a couple of different ways.
You were talking about rent.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were able to help them out with some stuff and, I don't want to get into all the details, but yeah, they were, looking at some difficulties in between jobs and the organization was able to help them out. We had some funds to help them. So, and that's what I love so much about this ministry is that it's not just.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the other thing we did was we were getting ready to have a birthday party for some of the families that had chosen life in the past. We had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, 1-year-old. Anyway, so this person that just chose life, she actually came to the birthday party and she was able to tell her story to some of the volunteers there, and then also see us in action, if you will. Yeah. And she was just like, I'm in. Yeah. And now she's sending us pictures of the gender reveal and pictures in her maternity clothes. She's doesn't have that much longer. She actually got 2 job offers. She's good.
Yeah. and that's the cool thing. We again, as an organization, we don't like doing we had 3 saves on the sidewalk and then we never talk to that person again. No, when we do this, we try to follow up, we stay in touch, and we try to continue to help them. So anyway, Linda, thanks for being on the show this week. And, just encourage the audience, keep praying for Linda, pray for her work. Visit our Facebook and Instagram pages, facebook.com/righttolifeca, instagram.com/righttolifeca, and go to our question for the week. What would you say to a young man whose partner is considering abortion? Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you so much.
All right. We'll be back with Jonathan Keller and some really interesting legislation. Why is Planned Parenthood opposing a minimum age for child marriage, a minimum age for marriage in California? That's next on Right to Life Radio. We're back with Right to Life Radio, and we are joined, as always, by our good buddy, the CEO of California Family Council, Mr. Jonathan Keller. How's it going, Jonathan?
It is summer in Fresno, so it is hot, but I'm glad we got a tiny respite. There's a couple days this week that were not triple digits.
A few days, yes. Now, I bring Jonathan on. Jonathan, as we know, works with California Family Council, and his organization is kind of our eyes and ears for what goes on in the California legislature. And this legislative effort, a Los Angeles Times story has been written about it, written by my one-time frenemy, Mackenzie Mays, who used to write for the Fresno Bee and sort of did me dirty in an article once. So anyway, Mackenzie Mays is very, I think, kind of very left-wing leaning. She's
kind of like that one, I can't remember which one, was it Kate Smith or whoever it was at CBS that literally was, she wrote all these articles about reproductive health and reproductive rights and then got hired to be a Planned Parenthood PR person or something. Like literally she was writing all these articles that she was always getting accused by our pro-life folks of being really, really slanted and biased. Mm-hmm. And finally, just a PR position opened up, and she's like, all right, I'm taking the mask off. Yeah, so instead of doing PR for Planned Parenthood covertly, she started just doing it overtly. Anyway, exactly. Now, Mackenzie Mays is maybe not that bad, but I think she's pretty left-leaning. Anyway, Mackenzie Mays has this piece in the LA Times, Why Child Marriage is Legal in California and the Unexpected Groups Fighting to Keep It That Way. Now, I stumbled across this piece on my Twitter account, and I was looking at it, and I learned a couple of interesting things. One of the things I learned is that in California, there is no minimum age requirement in order for someone to get married. If you are a minor and you want to get married in California, you need your parent or guardian to give permission, and you need a court order. But theoretically, a 12-year-old can get married in California. There's no minimum age limit. Now, maybe a judge would just refuse to give an order for a 12-year-old to get married, or hopefully, and minors getting married in California is not a very widespread phenomenon at all. According to county records, all the individual counties in California, there have been, I think, 48 marriages involving minors in California since 2019. So over the last 4 years, so this is about 12 people a year. This is not a huge number of people. Nonetheless, there's a legislator, a state senator, Jerry Hill from San Mateo, who had introduced legislation, and is apparently there's going to be another bill introduced next year to set a minimum age requirement for getting married in California. He's going to propose a measure that you have to be at least 18 years old in order to get married in California. You have to be an adult to get married. This would make California more in line with most other states. Most other states have some minimum age requirement. Usually, I think most states have it set at 16 years old. You have to be at least 16 in order to get married. This bill has garnered some odd opposition, chiefly from the ACLU and Planned Parenthood, of all groups. Now, why does Planned Parenthood oppose this bill? I want to go into this piece, and I'm going to read why. Planned Parenthood affiliates of California spokesperson Jennifer Wanacott said in a statement that the organization, quote, strongly supports protecting youth from abuse of all kinds, end quote. Who could be opposed to that?
No,
I mean, it makes sense.
It's maybe it's a little harder to be opposed in practice than in theory. By the way, Sound of Freedom it's about a crackpot right-wing QAnon conspiracy theory. Any children are involved in sex trafficking. Anyway,
that's right.
And then, like 3 days later, the FBI busts like 200 people for sex trafficking. Anyway, however, she said protections against exploitation should not, quote, should not impede on the reproductive rights of minors and their ability to decide what is best for them, their health, and their lives. The Reproductive Rights Organization did not support past attempts at imposing age requirements for marriage because of concerns that it could set a precedent that undermines minors' rights to seek abortions and other sexual health care.
Look, John, I know that this bill would protect underage children from arranged marriages that they don't want to participate in. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, it might affect our abortion bottom line. So, you know,
right. So we have to block this from becoming law. Now, I thought this story was fascinating. I am fascinated at Planned Parenthood's motivations here. Now, they say that they are characterizing this proposal, again, setting a minimum age
that someone has to reach before they can get married, setting that minimum age at 18, the age of majority, when you're an adult, that to do that could, in their words, because this is the language they're using to explain why they oppose this law, they say that protections against exploitation should, quote, not impede on the reproductive rights of minors and their ability to decide what is best for them, their health, and their lives. So they think a minimum age requirement for marriage impedes on their reproductive rights, that it impedes their ability to decide what is best for them, that it impedes their health, that it impedes their lives, to decide what is best for them, what is best for their health, what is best for their lives. So if that's what you think about minimum age requirements to get married, how then do they support any kind of statutory rape laws? So what's the difference? What's the difference between a minimum law mandating a law mandating a minimum age to get married versus a law mandating a minimum age to engage in any kind of sexual activity?
Wow, John, if only there was an example in recent years where we had one of Planned Parenthood's biggest supporters and champions at the Capitol who actually did pass a law that instead of closing loopholes on statutory rape, actually just expanded them to be universally applicable to both LGBT and non-LGBT individuals.
Yes, Matthew Weiner. Yes, Senator
Scott Weiner.
Scott right. Weiner, who had a very interesting bill. Basically, there was some sort of weird loophole in California law where basically it was something in California criminal law that adults abusing children of the same sex were getting punished more severely.
Yeah, it was if you engaged in any type of sexual relationship with a minor that was within 10 years of your age.
Yeah.
So it was a 14-year-old and a 24-year-old.
So beyond 10 years of your age. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was beyond 10 years, 14 to 24 would be okay if you were a opposite sex couple. If it was a older soccer coach,
so the penalty would be less,
right? For some reason, the opposite sex individual would get a slightly lower penalty. And Senator Scott Weiner looked at this bill and said, "This is unjust. I can't believe that we are treating these cases differently." But instead of saying we should close the loophole and we should say that young girls who are abused by their soccer coach or an older boyfriend, we should close the loophole so that those people are treated just as severely as same-sex couples. So, it was no, we can't and attack that.
Yeah,
and
so
now,
Scott Weiner's solution was basically to treat both cases leniently, as opposed to our solution, which would have been let's treat both cases just as severely. Let's throw the book at both of these guys.
And John, that bill at the time was completely bonkers. Like, I could not understand how in the world anybody thought that this was a good idea. But in light of Planned Parenthood's opposition, that bill actually suddenly makes a lot more sense because Planned Parenthood, it sounds like, at least my guess, is that they would have opposed a bill that made statutory rape more strongly punished.
Yeah, so what we see is Planned Parenthood has not proposed something to change the age of consent in California. Seemingly what they've been involved in are various efforts to weaken the criminal punishments surrounding statutory rape in its various forms. And I mean, because I think and I think maybe this is all just a PR thing. Like, if you come out as Planned Parenthood and say, we support lowering the age of consent to 13, we support lowering the age of consent to 14, we support lowering the age of consent to 12, because they're framing this, their opposition to this, they're putting side by side, their opposition to a minimum age requirement for marriage is side by side to their commitment for minors to have the ability to decide what is best for them and their health, which for Planned Parenthood, their health means abortion, and their lives. So, I mean, I don't know how, because that's the fundamental illogic here. If you think having a minimum age to get married is unjust, how then do you support any kind of minimum age to have sexual activity, to engage in sexual activity at all. I mean, if I don't know. I mean, I'm not crazy about. To be frank, I am not crazy about minors getting married at all.
Sure.
In any situation.
I could say, John,
I feel like I'm probably like it's a little less bad than statutory rape. Just without getting married first. I mean, at the very least, maybe if someone's made a marriage commitment, there's some commitment to lifelong fidelity and consistency. I mean, they're I don't know.
So, John, I'll say this. Like,
I think my grandma was 17 when she got married. So,
well,
anyway.
so here's an example. Like, can you remind me what was the age that has been roughly proposed? Is it 16? Is it 18?
18
is 18.
Is the age
okay.
proposed. Yeah.
So here's the thing that I would say. I will throw out just a theoretical idea. If let's say you have a high school sweetheart couple that is. They've been dating for a couple of years. Maybe they even started dating, in middle school. They literally have been dating for a while. And they're both, straight shooters. She's a straight A student. He's captain of the football team. But they're also, not to be too graphic here, but they are saving themselves for marriage.
Sure.
And the captain of the high school football team gets this great offer to, enlist in the military. He's going to go become a Marine. He thinks he might get deployed. And they're like, we would rather not wait until after all these appointments.
Let's get married.
Let's get married. And let's say that he is 19 and she is 17.
Yeah.
In that type of a situation, I could see there being a case where if it's an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old, if that's the type of situation and the parents, both sets of parents sign off on it and they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
We're okay with this. This is good because we want them to get married.
Right. That could be legit.
Yeah. And so I can understand there would be a few very specific example or exceptions where you say, look, if both sets of parents sign off on it.
A generalized opposition because minors need to be able to make their own healthcare choices.
Yes.
It just sounds bizarre. All right. When we return, I want to talk real briefly about all the stuff that minors can't do in California, including Jonathan's favorite example, tanning beds. That's next on the Right to Life Radio. Back with Right to Life Radio. All right, Jonathan, in our last little bitty segment here, let's lay out some of the things that minors cannot do in California. Planned Parenthood is bizarrely opposing a California state law to set a minimal age that people have to meet in order to get married in California. There's a lawmaker introducing a proposal to say that you have to be 18 years old to get married in California. Planned Parenthood is opposing it. Why? Because they think it will impede on the reproductive rights of minors and their ability to decide what is best for them, their health, and their lives. Now, I want to talk about some of the things minors cannot, which makes me think, I don't understand, again, how can Planned Parenthood then logically also support statutory rape laws? And what we've seen is that liberal left-leaning folks in the state have supported reducing the criminal penalties associated with statutory rape more and more and more. Now, here's some of the things minors cannot do in California. They cannot vote. They cannot smoke cigarettes. They can't go to a tanning salon even with their parents. I know that was a very recent law that the state of California passed. If you're 17 years old, 17 years and 350 days old, you want to go get a tan before the senior prom, go with your mom to a tanning salon, they will not let you do so. You can't sign contracts. You cannot consent to healthcare treatment unless it's reproductive healthcare treatment, unless you want an abortion, unless you want a surgical abortion in this state. So it's astonishing to me, this weird sort of attitude that the pro-abortion side has, that they are they are more and more okay with kids having sexual activity because it preserves the right to abortion.
That's right.
That'll do it for Right to Life Radio. We will see you all next time right here on Power Talk.